Hello, I'm Marcel Kittel. Welcome to the Cycling Day.
How does a rider go from being one of the greatest sprinters of their generation to falling out of love with the sport in less than 2 years? With 89 professional race wins, yellow jerseys, world championship medals and plenty of prestige to his name, Germany's Marcel Kittel has an interesting story to tell. 3 years after his retirement from the sport, we chart the rise and fall of Marcel Kittel. Born on May 11, 1988 in Arnstadt, East Germany, Marcel Kittel was born into a family of cyclists. After beginning in track and field as a kid, Marcel switched his focus to cycling at age 13. Finding early success, Marcel Kittel became a time trial engine. His prowess against the clock granted him a place on the German squad for the World Championships in 2006, where he took the gold medal in the junior time trial. The year later, in 2007, he would do the same. At the end of 2010, however, the up-and-coming Dutch Pro-Continental Skill Shimano squad scooped up Marcel Kittel. It was unknown whether he would become a sprinter or a time trial at this point. 2011 marked Marcel Kittel's neo-pro year. He was granted a chance to test out his sprinting legs early on in the 2011 calendar, taking out a sprint stage victory at the 2011 Tour de Langkawi. From there, the ball was rolling, and Skill Shimano went from strength to strength. However, once we came into the summer, Kittel was on fire. At the Tour of Poland, Marcel put his name on the map with 4 stage wins at the race, sealing all of the Dutch sprints on offer at his first ever UCI World Tour race. The trailblazing Kittel couldn't believe his legs, and he continued to the Vuelta a España at the age of 23. After a couple of close calls in the opening sprint stages, Kittel waited until stage 7 to pounce.
Here comes Sagan, but it looks like it's going to be Marcel Kittel for Skill Shimano, who ekes out the win just ahead of Sagan.
Here in a chaotic sprint, Marcel came out on top. Arms aloft, Kittel took his first of many Grand Tour stages to come here at the Vuelta, cementing his name as one of the hottest sprinters in the sport. With a total of 17 wins in 2011, Kittel's neo-pro season remains one of the most impressive to date. Satisfied with the season and ready for new objectives, Kittel began 2012 with the team. The wins came early on in the season again, but his crowning moment would come at the Sprinters Classic, the Scheldeprijs. Making the splash onto the Tour de France that year, Kittel had big ambitions when it came to the Grand Boucle. However, the German's debut was far from a dream. A viral infection forced Kittel out of the race before the Tour even hit the mountains. After a baptism of fire, Kittel was quickly becoming a rising talent in the sprinting scene, threatening the dynasties of the likes of Mark Cavendish and André Greipel. Now as a UCI World Tour rider following the promotion of Argos Shimano, Kittel began 2013 with a bang, taking out some wins in the winter period. Now as a World Tour team, Kittel found himself on the front line of many sprints. With a tally of 11 wins in the run-up to the Tour de France, Kittel was the underdog pick for sprinting glory. In a chaotic stage where we saw crashes, a finish line fiasco and a trapped bus, Kittel weathered the storm to take the opening bunch sprint of the 2013 Tour de France. With this, the German took the yellow jersey. In the post-race interview, Kittel described the yellow jersey like gold on his shoulders. But the jersey wouldn't stay for long in the Kittel camp, as he ceded the jersey the next day. However, the gold rush kept on coming for Marcel Kittel, who took a dramatic stage win in Saint-Malo and Tours in the second week of racing. However, nothing would top Kittel's crowning moment on the Champs-Élysées, which saw the German take an iconic stage win on a sunset-drenched Paris. Kittel had arrived. He was the new kid on the block, with the whole world ahead of him. Marcel took it all in his stride, starting 2014 in style with yet more sprint wins in the early phase of the calendar. With eyes on the Irish Giro d'Italia Grande Partenza, Marcel amped up his sprinting legs to hit the ground running at Belfast. In typical Irish weather, Kittel claimed his first Giro stage win as soon as stage 2 to round out a Grand Tour trilogy. Furthermore, he backed up his dominance the next day, his 26th birthday, with a second stage win in Dublin. He even had time for a quick selfie as well after the finishing line. However, Kittel never boarded the plane to go back to the Giro's heartland of Italy. Instead, he retired overnight. With eyes now on the Tour de France, Kittel would come into this race as the hot favourite for serial sprint wins. An English Grand Départ awaited at the 2014 Tour de France, but Kittel's giant Shimano were ready to rock and roll. All went according to the script on day 1, as Kittel gave us all déjà vu by taking the stage win, granting him the coveted maillot jaune again. In 2014, Kittel was clearly streets ahead of the Tour de France. From London to Lille to the Champs-Élysées, 2014 felt like a coronation as the new king of the sprints. 2015 was far from ideal for our German friend Marcel. Illness plagued the German, forcing him to abandon a number of high-profile races. With meagre performances throughout the calendar, Kittel's only win would come at the opening stage of the Tour of Poland. The main story of 2015, however, for Kittel was marked by his absence from the 2015 Tour de France start list. In fact, Kittel failed to participate in any Grand Tours in 2015. He said that missing the 2015 Tour squad was the hardest moment of his career. He said that he was finding it difficult to get back on the bike and motivate himself to train throughout the calendar, even suggesting the idea of throwing in the towel. The pressure was certainly there. As the sprinting ringleader, Kittel was expected to perform in the bullish coliseum of the sprint finish. With a rift clearly appearing, Kittel's future was in doubt. As his time with Giant Alpecin was up, Kittel was hot property on the transfer market. The call came and Kittel was granted the Sprinters Yellow Brick Road, a contract to Ethics Quick-Step. The Belgian squad is steeped in sprinting success with an illustrious history and a Wolfpack mentality. Marcel marvelled in the opportunity to ride for the formation, but would he be able to strike gold like so many sprinters there? Now racing under the banner of Ethics Quick-Step, Marcel Kittel kicked off 2016 at the Dubai Tour with 2 stage wins and a general classification victory. From here, success kept on rolling his way, another win at Ciel de Preis, World Tour stage wins, but the best was to come. Beginning at the 2016 Giro d'Italia, where Kittel dominated the opening 2 sprint stages in the Netherlands. To top it all off, Kittel claimed the Maglia Rosa for a single stage before abandoning later that week. Turning his focus to the Tour de France, Kittel began the race on the back foot after Dimension Data's Mark Cavendish emerged as the early frontrunner for the King of the Sprints. However, Kittel found an opportunity on the false flat finish to Limoges, where he beat Brian Coquard in a bike throw to take his only stage win at that year's Tour. For Kittel, though, one of his greatest achievements came later that year at the World Championships in Qatar. There, he and his Ethics Quick-Step squad took a surprise rainbow jersey in the team time trial. This feat would go down as Marcel's only senior rainbow jersey, but he describes it still as one of his favourite moments in his career. Sticking with the Quick-Step project, Kittel began 2017 in similar fashion to the former, with stage wins and the GC victory at Dubai. A win at Ciel de Preis along the way teed him up for a swashbuckling Tour de France. Kicking off in his home nation of Germany, Kittel clearly wanted to claim some big wins at the 2017 Tour, and he did just that. All beginning with stage 2. Once the ball was rolling, it was hard to stop him. In what can only be described as his best ever Tour de France, 2017 was vintage Marcel Kittel. Pure power and elegance in the sprints and a smooth, suave nature off the bike at all times. It seemed like the stars were aligning for the German as he targeted the green jersey. With a convincing lead in that classification, it looked inevitable. However, injury plagued Kittel's final week as he crashed out. Nevertheless, Kittel kept on fighting, even if an internal rivalry between him and Fernando Gaviria blurred his future at Quick-Step. With an unknown destiny on the cards, Kittel's future was subject to a number of transfer rumours and speculation. The ultimate destination for him? Katusha Alpecin. Katusha Alpecin were in a phase of restructuring in a management sense but also in a sporting sense. Promising the new arrival Marcel Kittel the prospect of ushering in a new sprint-focused sect of the team, Marcel was optimistic and enthusiastic. However, this would take time, and Kittel knew that. In 2018, he began the season as he ended the previous one, victoriously. Kittel's first win in Katusha colours came at Tirreno Adriatico. He backed it up later that week with another win. This, however, would go down as Kittel's last dance at UCI World Tour level glory. We can begin to see a shift from here as Kittel missed out on a win at his beloved Ciel de Preis a month later. In fact, he didn't finish in top 50. The underwhelming results continued as Kittel missed the mark in Cologne, California and Slovenia. Nevertheless, Kittel was entered into the Tour de France. Stage 1 of that year's race provided an opportunity for the German to roll back the clock and staple a new page in his story. However, a third place would have to suffice for Marcel. Only one more top 10 would come Kittel's way at the Tour before retiring on stage 11 after having missed out the time cut. Following on from the underwhelming Tour de France, Kittel called a close to 2018 early in August. However, Kittel dived into 2019 strongly, taking his 89th and final professional victory at the Trofeo Palma. From here, it looked like a slippery slope. Internally at Katusha, rifts began to show between Kittel and the squad. The spiral then began. Kittel didn't finish Paris-Nice and he finished 99th at Ciel de Preis. From here, Kittel took a break. He and Katusha mutually agreed to terminate his contract in the spring of 2019. In his statement on the matter, Kittel said,
"In the last 2 months, I have had the feeling of being exhausted. At this moment, I'm not able to train and race at the highest level. For this reason, I have decided to take a break and take time for myself, think about my goals, and make a plan for my future."
That plan came a couple of months later. The result? Retirement. In an interview with German newspaper Der Spiegel, Kittel made it official, stating that, quote, "I have lost all motivation to continue to torture myself on the bike." From this point, Kittel drew a firm line under his sporting career, as he looked towards other prospects in life. Interestingly enough, he cited quality of life as a reason to quit the sport. With 89 victories to his name over 8 years, Kittel closed the door on his days as a sprinting matador. So what went wrong for Kittel? Well, it's hard to tell. Kittel's move to Katusha seemed like a fatal blow. By placing so much faith in this new project, it was always a risk for Kittel to make the jump, particularly as he entered his 30s. Sprinting is a ruthless world where your name can disappear into obscurity very quickly if you're not gathering top-level results, and once he signed for Katusha, Kittel fell into that void very quickly after having missed the edge in UCI World Tour sprints at the end of 2018 and in 2019. Rather importantly as well, Kittel cites his retirement as a choice for himself. He was given a crossroads between remaining in the cutthroat sprinting business or going back to school to complete a degree. He chose the latter, and it's fair to say that it has served him well. Being a professional athlete isn't easy, particularly in cycling. There's a price to being a pro cyclist, from the travel, diet plans, and physical pain endured in the pursuit of glory. For sprinters, that glory is an ultimate rat race. However, nothing should take away from Kittel's class. As a dominant force in the sprints, Kittel appeared as the first legitimate opposition to the old guard of Mark Cavendish in the early 2010s. From there, his ascent to the top of the sport was nothing short of spectacular. But nevertheless, that's what the f*** happened to Marcel Kittel.